Did they make
contact? No, it's pretty close, but this is going to be a drag race.
Look at this.
Moves out to win it. Carl Edwards bumping, dump and run.
Here comes Gordon right up to the bumper again. The bump and run.
There it is.
Maine really turn around, made a Riley's cage up.
Yeah, welcome to the Bump and Run podcast. I'm your host, Michael D. White, joined by my two best friends, Matt the Stat Man Reilly and Eric at Daytona Ron. Hope you guys had a great weekend. Hope you guys had yourselves a melon smashing type of weekend. Ross Chastain, the big winner down in Talladega. And if you're liking this show, make sure you like, share, subscribe. Tell all your friends. Podcast available every Monday night. Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and more. And every Tuesday morning, video available on YouTube. Shout out to all the friends of the show. Shout out to everybody that's been commenting. A lot more people have been commenting. It makes it a little bit more fun going back and forth with the listeners. And we hope you enjoy. Make sure you tell all your friends and follow us on Twitter at BumpTheLetterNRunPod and BumperRunPod.com for all those links you need. Gentlemen, how was your weekend? Before the show, Daytona Ron was talking about partying and drinking, and I was doing a little bit of the same, and Matt was having a day of himself. I feel like we were all a little distracted during Talladega. I'm not gonna lie, I got a little tuned up beforehand. How about you guys?
Yeah, I actually had a great Talladega weekend. Felt like I could have been there. That's how much partying and drinking I was doing at the house.
I was gonna say I felt like I was on the boulevard all weekend, and I never left the Wyoming Valley of Pennsylvania.
That's right.
Yeah.
So Saturday, we had a good weather turnout finally in our area. Got a little sunshine and some warm weather coming in, and had some people up the house on Saturday to watch the Xfinity race. And I had a big old bonfire and stayed up to the wee hours of the night Saturday. And Sunday, leftover snacks, leftover food. Hey, everybody, come on back Sunday for the main event. So they all came back Sunday to watch the Cup race and have a good old time, slinging some drinks back and playing some yard games and stuff. So it was an eventful weekend for me, and the racing went right along with the parties, and I thought it was an excellent weekend of racing at Talladega.
When Eric said they stayed up late on Saturday, we were getting Snapchats at like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. So it was you guys stayed up real early on Sunday morning. Is what it came down to.
It's always funny when you wake up and you're seeing Snapchats from like 2 hours ago,
yeah.
And you open it up. We have a friend, I won't reveal that friend's name, but he has an occupation where it allows him to do that on a nightly basis.
Oh,
and
yeah, he's a bartender,
so during the week. So like I'm waking up and I'm seeing that like he sent us, we're all in a group Snapchat together. So,
yeah.
He sent us a Snapchat from like an hour and a half ago. I'm like, oh my God, I can't open this fast enough. I cannot wait to see what this Snapchat is.
He's just home after work.
Yeah, you're brushing your teeth, getting ready to leave out the door to go to work. And an hour ago, he's snapping you from his night before.
Yeah. So it was one of those weekends. I had the same, got a little tuned up before the race. Might have fell asleep in the middle of the race, but that's the beauty of super speedway racing. You wake up for the wrecks, and then you see the end, and I feel like you're all right. I saw Saturday. I was more into the Saturday race this weekend. I did my part. I was out at a busy bar, and I had them put Fox on one of the big TVs. So hopefully we got some new fans watching through that. And Matt, I know you were watching Saturday too, very intently. Your wife was hungry and getting a little hangry, and you're like, honey, there's just one more restart. There was three or four restarts for overtime.
We were supposed to go out to eat, nothing special, just nothing, no fancy dinner or anything, but just out to eat, just to get out of the apartment. And we were both hungry, and
yeah.
I told her, I think this is the last restart. Let's just hang back. I've watched this whole race. I can't leave now, right?
Yeah.
She's like, no, yeah, that's fine. They wreck. Okay, well, after this next restart, we'll leave.
Yeah.
They wreck. And then, it just kept happening.
It's like, we got to see the end.
I'm finally like, you know what? I'll give it one more go. This is it. No matter what happens, we're leaving if this doesn't end. finally we got the ending, and thank God, because the Xfinity race was fantastic. The Cup race was fantastic. It's Talladega. We got a hell of a week of racing, and then hey boys, we're up. We're next.
We're heading to Dover this weekend.
Dover.
Hell yeah, I can't wait. Going to be a great weekend coming up. We'll be live down in Dover hanging out, and we should still be doing the podcast Monday night. I think we all took Monday off just in case. But the weather so far looking A-okay in the first state of Delaware. But do you guys want to jump into some NASCAR news?
Let's hear it.
All right, I don't have a whole lot of stories going on, but I brought this one up just because it involved Daytona Ron Eric's former driver, Matt Kenseth. He ran the Boston Marathon last week in 3 hours, 1 minute, and 40 seconds. That would take me 3 days to run a marathon. I'm one of those guys that could run about a half a block and then I die for about 6. I'm like, I don't know how people run.
So speaking of that is incredible. I think he's 50 now. I did, believe it or not, at one time I ran a half marathon.
Did you?
And I kind of got bullied into doing it like a week beforehand by my ex-girlfriend. I didn't train one bit. I just said, you know what? Bert Kreischer style. I got that Mickey Mantle gene, baby. I'm going for it, and I'm just going to do it. Didn't even train. I did it in 3 hours and 26 minutes. So I did a half marathon the same amount of time that a 50-year-old Kenseth did a full one. So
you used to do those Tough Mudders and everything, though.
Yeah, I did used to do those Tough Mudders. They were about 12, in between there, 12 to 14, give or take. Okay. But just this past weekend, yesterday, actually, I was telling these guys.
I was going to say, what were you telling us before the show? How you injured yourself?
Oh, Minga, like I was, simple yard games. Okay, I'm only 31 years old. Shouldn't be that big of a deal. Nah, playing Frisbee in the yard, little tuned up. Woke up this morning. I was sore. I was just tired and miserable. My body was aching. I'm like, you hardly did anything, Eric. You did more drinking than you did playing games.
Yeah. That was so the reason why I was so tired for the Talladega race, I figured it out, is because I did something physical. Me and my girlfriend and her friends, we went for a hike before the race. But we were also drinking on the hike the whole entire time. We didn't bring water, so we drank like a backpack full of beers and stuff.
Oh, that's Bally, dude.
It was a beautiful day.
It was a 70-degree day here in Pennsylvania. The sun was shining, and her friends found like this waterfall close to her house. So we hiked that. We checked out the waterfall. I took some nice pictures and stuff. Got hammered, and I think because I got home, I was just like exhausted, a little drunk. When you stop drinking, you get sleepy and everything. So, but I watched enough of the race to figure out who the comers and goers were. But I think we're just getting old when it comes to that physical activity, man. We're no Kenseths. I know I would never be able to do that. But something I could do. Head on down to a dirt race. In fact, we did it Thursday. We'll talk about that in a second. But Chase Briscoe is planning to do 24 dirt races. He had 25 on the schedule. One was down in Talladega the Saturday night before the Cup race, and he actually won it. We headed down to some local dirt racing here in Pennsylvania. We went down to the Bloomsburg area, and we saw Alex Bowman and Christopher Bell. They were doing it for some Tony Stewart type all-star sprint series.
All-star circuit of champions. Yeah. It's 410 sprints.
Yeah, I had a blast. How about you guys?
It was amazing. And
oh yeah, to get down to a local dirt track and see where most of these drivers start their careers off, and those 410 sprint cars flying around a quarter-mile track like that is just, I can't exaggerate it enough. In person, it is insane how fast they go around that racetrack, and it does nothing to watch any kind of video. You could watch any kind of video TV you want. Getting there though, watching them live and hearing them how fast they were, that was just tremendous to watch. And we actually did bring Matt's dad made it out. First live race in quite some years for him. So it was good to have the gang together. There's about, I think, 11 or 12 of us that all showed up down there and got together. So we brought a good crew down to support some local racing.
I do have to give a shout out to our buddy and loyal listener, Joe Vav. He went down to the track when Bowman was getting ready to get interviewed. Bowman came out on the front stretch there and was getting interviewed. And we gave Joe a business card for the podcast that you're listening to currently. And he leaned over the fence, and Alex was on a quad. He drove right over to him and grabbed the card from him. So Alex Bowman, in the off chance that you did not throw that card away and you are listening, thank you for making it this far into the show, buddy.
Bowman absolutely threw that business card right into turn one. That thing's buried in the dirt down in Bloomsburg. But it was a great time. Apparently, there's a pretty decent local driver. His name is Anthony Macri. He was the Central PA points champion last year, and he put on a clinic down in Bloomsburg. He beat Bowman, came in 7th. Christopher Bell got lapped and then pulled off the field. There was one guy, though, it was absolutely insane. Just the power these cars have. He touched the wall a little bit, and his 2 front wheels lifted off the ground. It looked like a drag car. It was absolutely insane. But if you guys have the chance, wherever you're listening, to find just a local short track, dirt or asphalt, go out and support those. I think it costs us $25-$30 for the night. And
nothing.
Yeah, it's just a great time. Round up all your buddies. And even if you're not into racing, drink a couple beers and have a good time. But speaking of having a good time at dirt, Bristol Dirt planning on a return for 2023. I think we brought it up last week just to bring it up again. No official word, but Bristol themselves, the track is planning for it. So I'm assuming it's going to happen. And one piece of news, probably the biggest piece of news of the week, Kyle Busch stirring up the headlines when he talked about not having a contract in place for next year. If you didn't see the video was making the rounds on Twitter. And people were just asking about, his sponsorship. And of course, this year is a contract year. Nothing's been signed with Joe Gibbs. And he basically alluded to you have to ask Joe Gibbs, he needs to go out and sell it, So it seems without sponsorship, Kyle Busch might be out of ride. And those are his terms, his words. What did you guys think about that?
I thought it was eye-opening, and I'll tell you what, and I know I've mentioned it on this podcast, I've mentioned it to you guys off air, the older I get, and the more we kind of get the behind the scenes of NASCAR, the more I kind of appreciate Kyle Busch for the things that he's saying. Is he brash? Yeah. Is he upfront? Yeah. Yeah. But he doesn't lie. And I'm almost over the fact of how his delivery is too. He's pissed off,
he's frustrated, that's his livelihood.
Wrong. He feels like he's not getting the respect he deserves, which, he's a Cup champion. He's a future Hall of Famer. I think he deserves to have a contract at this point. So, we'll retweet that video out for anyone who hasn't seen it. You can go to our page and watch that video. It's a little 2 or 3 minute video of him getting interviewed, but he was honest and, hey, listen, that's the reality of the business. He mentioned that 90% of the Truck Series guys are rich
kids with money,
rich boys, bringing money to the track.
Oh, so yeah.
He's not wrong.
I got out of that. I don't know if it's a little tinfoil hatty or not, but it seemed to me like just him bringing up talk to Joe Gibbs and the Joe Gibbs thing. I have a feeling Gibbs might have been waiting for Busch himself to maybe put some money up, put his sponsor on the car, Rowdy. And Kyle Busch said, no, that's not my job to sponsor myself. That's your job to get me sponsors. That's your job to renegotiate my contract and to get this thing going. My job as Kyle Busch is to win races and championships, and that's what he's done. Like you said, Matt, the respect there. Listen, I'm a 2-time champion. I'm Kyle Busch. I'm the best in the business. And you're not going to sell me to these sponsors. You're not going to get this deal done. You're not going to be chomping at the bit to re-sign me. What is that about? You know what I mean? So, I could see that where it goes that route, or what's all on the edge of our tongues here is Kyle Busch know that Ty Gibbs is right there nipping at his heels.
Yeah.
And if Ty Gibbs could bring sponsorship, is Joe Gibbs willing to promote both of them?
Yeah.
You know, or is he only willing to promote for one of them? So he either has to choose Ty or Kyle. But, you know, the funny part was where Kyle said, I don't think I'll get another ride anywhere, which I find that hard to believe. You're Kyle Busch. Someone's gonna pick you up. Even if they have to run HendrickCars.com for 26 races, they're gonna pick you up because of who you are. So the sponsor thing, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I just think it's more of a respect thing, and that Gibbs, he wants it all on him. Kyle he shouldn't have to do anything in that aspect. That's Gibbs' problem.
If I'm Kyle Busch and I'm feeling as disrespected as he's coming off, there is one car so far. Here we are at the end of April. There's one premier ride so far that we know is going to be open next year, and that's the number 10 at SHR. If I'm Kyle Busch and I really am feeling wronged, I'm giving Tony Stewart a call and I'm saying, what can you offer me? What can we bring to the table? Let's get this done.
So I was going to bring
Joe Gibbs. Let's get this done.
I was going to bring that up because in the video, he essentially said like no team would touch him, which I find absolutely insane to believe.
Right.
And you're right, Matt. The 10 car is available. We already know it's available. We kind of have a hunch of what's going to happen with it because SHR signed Ryan Preece in the offseason to do simulator work and some one-offs and whatnot. But I think when a driver like Kyle Busch, a two-time Cup champion, becomes available, you kind of do whatever you can to get him. I know Tony Stewart really wanted Kyle Larson last year. He didn't get him because Ford wouldn't pull that trigger with the baggage, and I think that bothered Tony Stewart. I don't think Tony would let a Kyle Busch slip through his hands like he let Kyle Larson slip through his hands. Do you guys agree with that?
Yeah, oh yeah. He's only 36, I believe, 35 or 36 years old, Kyle Busch is. So he's still got, like, yes, maybe his quote-unquote prime might be behind him, but he's still probably got another, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 years of racing left in him.
I think this is now when drivers in this crop of drivers that he's come up with, this is when they kind of catch their prime, to be honest.
Yep.
From 36 to about 42, 43 in there of recent, that's been the window where you've been mature enough. You know the cars, you understand what it takes to win, and you kind of put it all together. And you kind of don't let the little things get to you that they once were, and you kind of you become this mature, NASCAR Cup driver that, you should know this is your opportunity to get it done. So I think Kyle Busch, he has one or two more in him for sure.
We did come up with another scenario that's more or less a little tongue in cheek, a little jokey, if you will. But like,
was it my scenario with the trucks? Because I'm 100% serious. I hope that happens.
I would love that.
No.
I love that.
No. I want to be on the record saying I also hope and pray to God this happens. It never will, but it would be amazing where he just says, you know what? Fine. Nobody wants me in the Cup Series. I'm a two-time champion.
Yeah.
I've still got a lot of winning left in me. I'm going to go back down. I'm going to ride my own trucks in the Truck Series. I'm going to win 10 to 15 races a season.
Yeah.
I'm going to
just dominate.
I'm going to steal the championship away from all these kids coming up who are playing their own rides, and I'm going to show everyone who's boss. I would love it if he did that.
If that happened, I would be the biggest Kyle Busch fan in the Truck Series. Like, yeah, because he already has his own sponsors for the trucks. Throw Cessna on the side of the car, sell some fucking airplanes. I don't know. Yeah. And that's the thing. He's the talent. Go out and sell the talent. The only way I could see them not selling Kyle Busch as a moneymaker is if they're just kind of not trying and they want Ty Gibbs in that car and they want to put Monster on that car, Hear
this out. When's the last time they had to sell one of their drivers for a sponsorship? Do they even know how to do it?
That's true, too. It's been a long time.
Been with Denny forever.
Yeah.
Bass Pro Shops
that 19 car in Bass Pro Shops. That's on Truex car almost every week. And you had M&M's who was on Kyle Busch's car every week. And then the 20 car, you had DeWalt and Stanley forever.
And Ream Rem or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I feel like Ream came with Bell.
UFC belt. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And then, but yeah, you had like
from 13
sports
to
clips
17,
and stuff.
you had Dollar General on that car for 26. So it's like, when was the last time they really had to go out and try to get a sponsor and sell a driver and try to get new things? I don't know that is it, but it could be a thing too, where it's like, hey, they have so many long-term sponsors that either A, they're looking for another thing like that, and they don't want to have like just
They
a couple
probably
one-off.
are too.
But it's shocking to me because how many Sirius XM cars did Toyota run? How many Toyota Care paint schemes does some of those guys run? So like, you mean to tell me you don't want to just hold on to Kyle Busch? Even if you don't have a primary sponsor, you can't put Toyota Care on Kyle Busch's car for the meantime till you try to get some sponsorship?
Yeah, put TRD on it.
And this is where Kyle's going, get it together, Joe.
Yeah.
Joe Gibbs has to get it together, not me.
If I'm in charge of marketing at JGR, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to one sponsor and one sponsor only, and I'm making this offer. I'm going to Monster, and I'm saying, listen, you already sponsored Ty Gibbs. Let's go ahead and sign a 2-year contract with Kyle Busch, and for 2 years, you get the Busch brothers in your stable to market the hell out of it.
Kyle and
then
Kurt
after
teaming
that
up.
2-year contract is over, we'll move Ty Gibbs up. It'll be a smooth transition into the Cup Series for him, and then let's party with Ty Gibbs in the Cup Series. That's what I'm doing if I'm head of marketing at JGR.
Well, Matt, you get that resume together. Maybe they need a new guy down there, you know? But yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be real interesting. It certainly piques my interest. The first real silly season drama, really, like Kyle Busch without a ride. I can't imagine it. I know Martin Truex Jr. already signed early in the off season, so it should be interesting. But do you guys want to?
There's not much to talk about on the racetrack with Gibbs this year, so why not stir the pot up and have something else to talk about? Because that's not a good look for Gibbs as a race team.
No,
you know, you're struggling
as
a race team. I know they have 2 wins, and thankfully they do. But, you know, it seems from week to week they're struggling and only one of their drivers shows up in that said weekend. And, you know, this is not a good look from coming from a team that is not used to struggling. Now they are struggling a little bit in terms of being Joe Gibbs, that team. And now here they are with all this turmoil with Kyle Busch. They're struggling. This is a lot of new going on over at Joe Gibbs.
Oh, I hear you. I got a NASCAR history. Do you want to? We don't have a pickle lane this week. Do you want me to do the history after, and then we'll just jump into the race right now?
Yeah,
I feel
I know a lot of people like the history, so we'll tease it and then we'll come back to it.
We got NASCAR overtime in Talladega for the history. But I figure since we're already talking about silly season stuff, we might as well just jump right into the race weekend. Your Xfinity Series race winner, Noah Gragson, holding off Jeffrey Earnhardt in that number 3. What a day to watch the Xfinity Series. Old Larry Mack back on the war wagon, got himself a second place finish with Jeffrey Earnhardt. I thought it was great. Do you guys watch the race, Matt? I know you did. Eric, you catch it?
Oh yeah.
So that's what I forgot to say when I said we were supposed to go to dinner, is like I wasn't gonna miss with if Jeffrey Earnhardt was out of it, I probably would have just said let's go. But because he was in it, I was like, if I leave this house and Jeffrey Earnhardt and Larry Mack win this race and I miss it, I'm never gonna forgive myself. So that was really the reason why I wanted to stay and watch it. And he was that close.
Some of those moves he pulled in that last lap was just like Larry Mack said. There was a little snippet after the fact that they kind of interviewed him and talking about that day, and how special it was to them. Like the way Larry Mack explained it, like I almost got choked up listening to him and watching the highlights of it all, because, he said like, it come from Larry Mack too. He's like, some of the moves that he was making on that last lap, he goes, well, there had to have been an Earnhardt in that car.
Yeah.
And like, just like him saying that
just
was
like
oh
instincts.
shit, like you're right,
Yeah. And I always felt bad for Jeffrey Earnhardt because he never had the best equipment and everything. Then he finally had a Joe Gibbs ride in 2019, and then the sponsor like fell out of nowhere, that IK9. It was like a weird drama too, where like they pulled the sponsorship off in between practice and the race. And I always felt bad for him ever since, just kind of pulling things together. even after the race, he just seems super thankful to be able to have that opportunity. And it was cool seeing Larry Mack being super thankful to have the opportunity to come back and crew chief too. He seemed to have a lot of fun. My whole thing is, how much do you think Larry really was hands on that car? Do you think
a lot?
Do you? Do you think he was in the shop every day, like working on it, figuring out the setup and stuff?
Oh yeah, 100%. If you're gonna get him to come out, he's gonna take his job so serious, and he is going, and you could tell that he was serious by the way that they performed that team this weekend. So I don't think he was going to go out there just to mess around. I think he wanted to, probably more than anyone else in that field wanted that race to win. And Larry Mack, I was thinking about it, that is why he's America's crew chief right there. Like, that is why he, still, they have him around because of, his skill set that he has. So, Steve, hang on, hold your horses. It's not your turn yet, because America's crew chief is still around, and he's going to be around for a few more years. So hold your horses, Steve Letarte.
Well, he's America's favorite crew chief on NBC. So
that's right. The one thing I took away was I sent you guys a clip of it. I think it was just Bob Pockris doing a little interview at way after the race was over with his cell phone in the infield with Larry Mack. And Larry Mack just at that point, I think he had a little bit of time to think about it, and he did not shut the door to return him back up to that war wagon if the opportunity presented itself and it was the right opportunity. Whitey, I know that he's said before there's only two people that he'd come back for, an Earnhardt or Tyler Reddick. So is it Burnett is your
if Randall Burnett gets sick with COVID or something, I feel like Larry Mack would jump right in there.
Yep. So hey, Randall, watch your back, buddy.
Yeah. Well, he actually had COVID near the end of last year, I think. Maybe it was the beginning of this year. I forget. I know there was a different voice on the radio one week, and I was real confused. So, but I thought that was a great race. I was really excited. I thought Austin Hill was going to get another super speedway win. He won down at Daytona. He led a whole lot of laps. We got to give it up to Noah Gragson. I feel like Noah Gragson's really coming into his own. He's matured at this point in the Xfinity series, and the performance is really there. I know I dogged on Noah a lot last year, but this season I feel like he's done kind of like a 180 in the personality and the performance aspect. So good to see him get a win. Junior Motorsports got a win, and RCR got the second place. I'll say that's a good day in the Xfinity series. And we had a pretty decent day in the Cup series. I know not the ending that Daytona Ron Eric wanted to see. His guy Eric Jones led a whole ton of laps, but in the end, Ross Chastain would steal the win right in the closing 1,000 feet or so, just like my guy last week. Eric felt the pain this week. It was 3 hours, 21 minutes in Talladega. We had 6 cautions for 28 laps. Your top 5, Ross Chastain, Austin Dillon, again, the number 3 in second place on Sunday. Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson, and Martin Truex Jr., and we had 41 lead changes among 16 drivers. The most laps led was by William Byron. He led 38. Kyle Larson led 32. Daniel Suarez led 28. Eric Jones led 25. And I thought he was going to lead 26 there. Ryan Blaney, 23. Bubba Wallace, 15. Denny Hamlin, 9. Christopher Bell, 7. Kyle Busch, 3. And Ross Chastain led but 1 lap, but it was the most important one, the one coming to the green flag. Fellas, what did you guys think about the race on Sunday?
I loved it. I had people over the house to watch it. I was excited to watch that 43's paint scheme get, run this week. They did a little fan contest for that, and he always runs the Air Force car of some sort. So a sharp looking car out there. It's Talladega. It was nice weather here at home, garage party, TV's out there for the first time of the year. Beers are flowing good.
Oh yeah.
And the racing, it was entertaining. It had everything that I wanted in a race. It gets to a point where, super speed race could get single file. I thought they stayed, together as a whole pack longer. They didn't split off into sometimes they form their own little groups as certain drivers get a little sketchy, like, I'm going to back up, and others will form little packs. They stayed together for almost that entire race as one pack of cars, which, it made it even harder, I think, to drive those cars. And that's what I love too. It seemed those cars were so hard to handle.
Yeah.
They were a handful in the pack, and it was interesting. Just like Bristol Dirt. It's a car that's not supposed to be run. Let's see how you handle it. It's just super speedway, no practice, just had qualifying. Hey, go out there. How is this going to handle? It's hot. It's the first time this car went through that. And, it was just, there was a lot of stuff at play for me to pay attention to and keep my eye on. And, pit road was a big factor with a lot of the race going green there.
Yeah.
And, getting onto pit road, you see people spinning, getting onto pit road.
Cody Ware spinning in on the pit road again.
You had Gibbs guys, fighting for position, getting off pit road. Kyle Busch takes out Christopher Bell.
I couldn't believe that. I was losing my mind.
In shock at that. So it's like, oh my gosh, there was a lot of interesting things going on if you were awake watching it.
Yeah, sorry.
And but no, it was just, with the 43, like Matt before the show, he ended up sending us a video, and it's funny that when you sent that, because I turned to either it was Jay next to me or Dana watching the race. I noticed that mid-race. I go, he didn't change his left side tires at all so far.
Yeah.
Every time he went into pit road, because of course he's in the top 5, they show his pit stop, which I normally don't get to see it, but they show the top 5, top 10, and every time I'm like, he didn't change his tires at all. I'm like, I noticed, I'm like, oh God, let's see how this is going to work out for him. But man, did it work out, keeping him up front. So overall, the ending was the cherry on top for the whole race, I thought. And, even though I didn't get to enjoy the Sunday that the cherry was on top of, it was still an awesome, ending to the race. And I had a blast watching that race on Sunday.
Yeah. How about you, Matt? What did you think about the race?
I loved it. Was Eric, did you give your grade?
Did I? I gave it an A.
I don't know. Oh,
okay. Yeah. I figured it was an A from that description.
Yeah,
it sounded like you had a great time. Yeah.
I loved it.
Sorry. So, all right, I gave it a B. It was a good race. I enjoyed it, but it just wasn't the best Talladega race I've ever seen. And that's not a knock. They're not all going to be, the best of all time. It wasn't awful. It was just, for me, it was just good enough to keep my attention, to stay off my phone the whole time and just kind of pay attention. I was waiting for a heart-stopping moment, and it just never really happened. And that's maybe on me to adjust my way of thinking going into a Talladega race. You still had your passing, you still had your comers and goers like you always do at Talladega. I just think that I hold super speedway racing and specifically Talladega in such a high regard that if I don't get the absolute best, I'm maybe a little bit let down, and that's on me. That's not on NASCAR. Don't take this as a complaint. The race was still fantastic. As a matter of fact, I wrote it down in my notes that the race probably would have that kind of race with all the changing of leaders and everything, at any other track would have been in the A bracket. Because I hold Talladega in such a high regard, I just dropped it down a little bit. If I was at the Daytona Ron garage party drinking beers, I probably would have had as much fun as he did and graded it DA. But I was just in a lot more subdued, I guess, relaxed, kind of dazed kind of approach down here. So I don't know. I thought it was going to be a little bit better than it was, but still a great race. So I gave it a B.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I'm giving it a B, and I feel like even going into it, I wasn't as hyped as I normally am for Talladega. Even my girlfriend, when we were out to dinner on Saturday at that bar, and I turned it on, she's like, "Oh, isn't this like that race you look forward to all the time?" I'm like, "Yeah, I know, and that was the Saturday Xfinity race." But I'm like, yeah, for some reason, I'm just not feeling Talladega this week. I think because we're going to Dover, I'm so excited about that live experience and everything. It kind of I'm looking forward to the future more than what's in front of me. You know what I mean? I think like
not to cut you off, Whitey. I was that same exact way going into Bristol when Martinsville was going on, and I'm normally hyped for Martinsville.
Yeah.
But I kind of just was not even thinking about it. I was already in the following
You're
week
in Bristol mode already.
Bristol,
yeah.
And it just so happened that Martinsville race was a dud, which was kind of like okay that I kind of was out to lunch for it in a way because of where I was going. So I could see that 100% us going to Dover. You're on that already.
Yeah.
And that's what I think part of it was for me too, is I'm looking forward, and shame on me for not living in the moment. You know, we were doing a lot of running around before the race. We had just gotten back from a long morning of shopping. We were doing a baby registry. We had to take the dog for a walk. So by the time I got settled in, the race was literally just getting going. So I didn't really have a lot of time to kind of chill, take in the pre-race, take in some of the storylines that they might have been talking about. I just got back and I just like that the race started and I wasn't in the best frame of mind, if you will. So again, that's on me. It's not on Talladega, but
you know what happened? You pulled a Whitey this week and you were running around and you barely you probably turned the TV on like I would normally they're just coming around to taking the green flag.
In my defense, though, in my meager defense, we were at Sam's Club afterwards, and we're Sam's Club members, and the gas is cheaper there if you're a member. So
you wait in that giant line.
I'm gonna get gas in the truck. There's a Sheetz right across the street. And you can see that the gas at Sam's Club was 10 cents cheaper per gallon. So I'm gonna save money. This is gonna be great. Dude, I'm not lying when I say, I'm not exaggerating when I say I waited in that gas line for 45 minutes.
How many gallon tank do you have?
For the Tacoma, it's small. I don't know. It's small.
So you save 18. So at 10 cents a gallon, you save what, $2? You waited 45 minutes, save $2.
Yeah, it wasn't worth it. In hindsight, not my best idea, but whatever.
At a certain point, you just have to commit to it. But no, every time
I was only in line for a half hour, and I was like, whatever.
Every time I go to that Sam's Club, because I'm a member too, we'll stop in there every now and then, and I just look at that line at that gas station right there, and then I look at the Sheetz directly across the street. I'm like, it's 10 cents. Like, I get it. Gas sucks right now. It's super expensive. I'm like, 10 cents. Like, I don't know. It's like, there's nobody at the...
valuable.
Yeah, there's nobody at the Sheetz. I'm just going to fucking stop there.
I learned my lesson. I'll never do it again. I'll pay $2 more per gallon if it means I don't have to wait in line for 45 minutes. Yeah, I'm never doing that again.
But yeah, I gave it a B. Again, too, I fell asleep a little bit in the beginning there. I was up for the whole entire end of stage 2 and the whole entire stage 3. Once my guy Tyler Reddick went out, we'll talk about him later on. It was the eyes were getting heavy, and
what segment are we going to be talking about Tyler Reddick?
Well, you'll see. You know the segment. You know the segment. Came in last. Here on the Bumper Run Podcast, we talk about the loser too. Anyways, no, I gave it a B. I thought it was pretty good, like a typical Talladega. Nothing really stood out to me though. I feel like, and I brought it up during Atlanta, and I feel like I watched the same thing happen in Daytona too. The side draft just doesn't work in these cars, and I think that affected some of the pack racing. I know we had 41 lead changes. But when you go through the list, it's like, oh, this guy led for 38. This guy led for 32. Like the leaders were up there for a while. So it didn't feel like there was much passing going on, even when there was. And I think that kind of took a little bit of the grade away from me there. And we didn't really see 3 wide, which I'm not saying is a bad thing either, because we didn't see the big wrecks that 3 wide brings us. I think I'm just not used to it not being 3 wide. At Talladega and getting real dicey and stuff like that, really keeping you on the edge of your seat. And we really didn't see much of a big one. And you want to what? I'm kind of glad because, I did okay in fantasy, and usually the big one destroys half the guys. I did lose a couple guys to Rex though. Chris Buescher. Oh man, I had high hopes for those fast Fords. That was another thing that took me out of it too. Fords were not in it at all. And I thought the Fords were going to be so fast down there after what we saw in Daytona. and like the Hendrick Chevys just dominated the day.
Yeah, actually, when I was looking into grading Mayan, and one of the reasons why I gave it an A was because we had it run green to the end. Like,
yeah,
I was so relieved and kind of like it was just like, oh, okay, like refresh me. Like, I'm getting tired of all of these restarts and cautions within the last like 5 laps of a race where it's overtime, restart, restart. It was kind of refreshing just to be like, okay, this is the race.
This is
Here it is. And it just and it ended, and it was still a good finish. You didn't need all of the big one or all of the wrecks with 2 to go, 3 to go.
And we got an amazing finish.
Exactly. So like it was refreshing that it did go green and we didn't get a lot of the wrecks, and that could be part of the reason why it got a little, lull and like not as big, because like you said, there wasn't much 3 wide, and usually 3 wide that causes the big ones because in the middle you're stuck.
Yep.
But I think the aero thing had a lot to do with them not being able to go 3 wide. They just couldn't get the side draft to pull themselves up or to slow the other cars down. So going 3 wide, it was almost pointless if you didn't have 5 cars following you. Like at least
because then you just get sucked right down into the back.
Yeah, exactly. So I just think the aero of the cars not allowing that side draft, I think that's what kind of in turn caused no 3 wide racing and less of the big ones, which I'm actually all for.
Yeah, I agree.
And it was just a refresh. Don't get me wrong. It's always, exciting and thrilling to see something like that happen. But it was just a refreshing race to see it go green like that at a super speedway. Rare, I should say.
You know what? I'm going to add a plus sign just for the end of that race, though, because that ending was absolutely insane. I was standing up, freaking out, like cheering, like praying Eric Jones pulled it off for you, Eric. And
I think everyone who knows Eric was pulling for Eric Jones.
Because what a great story it would be. You see the 43 back in victory lane after how many years? What was it? Eric Almirola was the last person to win. And
stuck at 199 too.
Yeah. It's just like, oh, come on, let's get
like
it.
The Wood brothers are stuck at
99. Yeah,
they're just stuck there.
And the way Harrison Burton's been, they're gonna be stuck there for a while. I hate to say it. Their hope was with Matt Benedetto and Bristol.
Was it?
But I'm gonna give it a solid B plus. One thing though, are you guys gonna bring up practice in the checkers and wreckers at all?
Yeah, I'm not.
You are? Okay.
Yep.
All right, then I'll save what I was gonna say for that. You guys want to jump right into the checkers and wreckers then? All right, Matt, let's start with you.
I am given, we just kind of touched on it, or Eric, I think, touched on it for a brief second there. My checkers goes to Hendrick Motorsports changing up their super speedway approach from Daytona. They changed it up completely. So Hendrick Motorsports usually sets their cars up for qualifying trim going into Daytona, specifically the Daytona 500.
Yeah.
Because of the importance of sitting on the pole for a week. Mr. H's big theory was if my car, my Chevy, is sitting on the pole, I own Chevy dealerships for one whole week. My selling point is come buy a Chevy because look at it. It's sitting on the pole.
We're sitting on the pole,
500. So that's why they put such a big emphasis on qualifying for the Daytona 500 for super speedways in general. Well, they decided, listen, we put such a big emphasis on qualifying for the Daytona 500. We raced like shit in that race. We're not doing that this time around. We're going to qualify like shit, and hopefully we're going to race a lot better.
Yeah.
And it worked. You just look at some of the loop data. I'm like Mr. Loop data anymore. I love the loop data. I took a deep dive into it. So, Larson and Byron both had the best average running position of fifth. They both had an average running position of fifth. Chase had an average running position of 8th, and Bowman an average running position of 14th. So all 4 of them did really, really well there. At a super speedway, when you're usually coming and going, that's kind of hard to do, is keep that momentum up front. They were able to do that.
Yeah.
Larson had the best driver rating of the whole pack at a 118. Slick Willie 2 Clocks had a 104 104, which is third best driver rating. Chase had a 103, which was fifth best. So they brought really good cars for the race itself. I loved, candidly, I am a Hendrick Motorsports fan, so I loved to see that approach, and it paid off. And they were all in contention there at the end when there was a mad dash to the finish to maybe even steal a win. Unfortunately, it didn't happen, but they were at least in contention, and that's all you can ask for in a super speedway. So hats off to them for getting it right with that.
How about your records? What was your records for the weekend?
You just kind of hinted toward it going into this segment. It goes to NASCAR for not having practice, which boggled a lot of people's minds. I get not wanting to destroy cars during a parts shortage, but you have to give these teams an opportunity to figure these cars out before you throw, 40 of them out on the track and start running at a competitive rate.
Yeah.
My biggest problem is that if you're going to do that, then give them a competition caution after maybe 10 or 15 laps on a super speedway to come down pit lane.
That's why I was really confused. There was no competition caution without practice, just to check tire wear. It's a safety issue, right?
Right. And just see how the cars are handling. Hey, how's your car handling? What do we have to do to get it right? Figure it out, whatnot. And they just didn't do that either. So I just thought NASCAR dropped the ball pretty bad. Maybe the ECR engines would have found out that they had a huge problem before the race started, rather than unfortunately finding out. You see Tyler Reddick. We probably would have got I busted your balls about finishing last, but he didn't do anything wrong. The engine was bad. So, and then he saw it 2 or 3 other times throughout the race, ECR engines expiring. So, I feel like they could have figured that out if there was practice.
Yeah, I'm sure they would have got 30 laps in a practice session and been able to see that, it would have failed then, But no, I agree too. And the reason why I was going to bring up practice is I just heard a whole lot of people complaining on the radio about their handling and how their cars were just not handling the way they wanted them to, and maybe the way they needed them to make some moves. And even Dale Jr. during the broadcast said oh, this is stuff that could have been shaken out during practice and we didn't have it. So I don't know. It just kind of bothered me.
I heard Dale Jr. Talking, I think it might have been on Sirius XM, that practice, what he used it for, not necessarily, this is going not car setup related or getting speed or anything like that, but Dale Jr. said he used practice to make friends and
figure out who to drive with,
who, he was always aggressive during practice. He practiced like he wanted to race because that let everyone else know, hey, he's willing to push me. He's willing to get pushed. He's willing to do whatever he can to win that race. So that's where you kind of see who you want to race with and race around, and who's willing to and who's not willing to race. So in that aspect, not having practice, or, in the case of Eric Jones, you have one other teammate, which, that's not a lot. 2 cars, your one teammate's gone. You need to make other friends out there. And, practice, Junior said that's where he would either make his friends for the race. So there's different things that these drivers and teams could use practice for.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because then the other drivers see what your car is capable of and what you're capable of as a driver, especially as a younger driver, Justin Haley's out there. This is his first full-time year in Cup. And he's a great super speedway racer in the Xfinity series, so people know to trust him there. But, Cup races are different. The cars drive different and everything. And, just the rookies, Harrison Burton, all those guys, I think they could have really benefited from some practice.
Just to know how hard to push, how the drag is on your car. If you're a team and you have 4 cars, who's the pusher car? Who's the best puller car? You could figure all that stuff out in practice, because certain cars could get pushed and others can't. So if you get stuck behind someone, in practice, man, he was really bad up front, I'm not going to get behind him. Yeah. That was non-existent for the weekend.
No.
Yeah. And you look at a guy, you just mentioned Justin Haley. I mean, just looking at the data, he is a super speedway racer. He's really good at it too. He finished 12th, but I mean, he spent 97 laps, literally just over half the race in the top 15, which proves that he had a good car. He had a fast car.
Yeah.
If they had practice and other guys around him maybe knew that this guy had a good car, it maybe would have benefited a guy like Justin Haley. Maybe he would have found his way up to the front by using other guys to get himself there. But, these are the things that you miss when there's no practice.
That's true. All right, Eric, how about your checkers and wreckers for the weekend?
My checkers and wreckers kind of go hand in hand here. My checkers, I got to give it to my boy. I got to go hometown here. It was awesome to see him run well. I know he runs well at super speedways, and it was just a big day as far as points goes. Finished stage 1 P8, finished stage 2 P8, and he finished the race P6. Great day.
Yeah.
And I never thought I'd say I was disappointed leaving Talladega with those stats, but in every right I do, I am disappointed, but in hindsight, stay positive. He had one of his best days ever. He was up inside that top 10, top 15 for quite a while, and just showing what he could do. I think people know he's a good plate racer, and he could get pushed and be pushed, and it just made it even more impressive though that he might be one of the most underrated speedway racers. Now, there is a little bias in there, but, he usually is up front at the end of these races with 0 teammates. And, when you don't have teammates like that and you make friends, like I was saying Dale Jr. does, to me, that means something. They trust him out there to be out there with them. And, I just thought it was super, super impressive. Leading that race at the end, he almost had to know he was doomed.
Yeah.
I knew he was doomed.
As soon as that big push came and he kind of got a little too far out, I'm like, oh no, was this
far
it?
Out, it was like, okay, in my head, I'm standing there in my garage. I'm surrounded by people that know, and it was very tense in my garage in that moment. And I think everyone around me thought I was going to be like
furious and
pissed, and I wasn't. Like, I didn't really have that kind of reaction when it all went down because it was such a good race. It was a good finish. He didn't get destroyed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That was what happens. You get shuffled out. I was expecting it in a way. But that leads into my wreckers, which is Kyle Larson. I think the kid got a little antsy, never being up front at a super speedway.
He does not have good speedway stats.
He doored the 45. He wasn't clear at all. I don't understand that move at all. He ruined Jones's day yesterday because the 45 he pulls out. Larson, he's not clear by a half a car, and he tries to move up the racetrack.
Yeah.
And once Larson moves up the racetrack,
that's
Eric
when Ross
Chastain
got that run.
That what Matt said, the Hendrick guys are all behind him. Yep. They're going to make the move. So he's going to follow Larson. Well, Larson wasn't even clear.
Yeah.
So Jones went to go move up. If Larson was clear and Larson got in front of the 45, Jones is in front of the 5. Now that high line gets the push. Most likely Eric Jones either wins that or the 45 or Larson wreck each other trying to make the first move at that point.
Yeah.
But once he goes and doors the 45, takes him out, that whole top side
the line
just
out.
The bottom
lost momentum.
Was locked up, book gone. So in all reality, Larson, what were you thinking? What was your spotter thinking?
Yeah.
You weren't clear by half a car. And you know what I mean? So in that case, if Larson never moves and lets the 45 go by him, the 45 is not going to go anywhere. They would have stalled out. There wasn't enough momentum to go 3 wide. We talked about that all day. You couldn't get the momentum to go 3 wide. So what were you doing besides, hey, I'm terrible at super speedways. This is my opportunity. I've been up here.
Let's make something happen. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't discredit him for going for it, but man, was that dumb. And that move, I feel like it caused EJ to kind of get run over on that top line, essentially. And, if he doesn't make that move, he's obviously going to go to the bottom in front of Ross, and he's going to get shoved. And the battle's going to ensue from that point. I understand that.
Yeah.
But, man, was that such a bonehead move with 1,500 feet to go. You're not clear at all, and you just You smashed that guy. And after that, people noticed this because I went down a rabbit hole of a couple people. They make highlight videos in the last year and a half saying this is your latest champion.
Yeah.
And Larson at the end of a race seems to door somebody out of the way at the end of a race.
Yeah.
And it's just like, come on, guy. You know what I mean? Like,
that's all you got. Is that all you got? Is that your move? You know, like.
Right. So, like, for me, I got to wreck Larson at the end there. He's a good driver, but sometimes at the end there, just gets a little boneheady sometimes with some of those moves, like when he doored Haley at the Clash blatantly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's just certain,
which was like
like
terrible. Like there was no need for it, you know.
And there's no need for him to door to the 45 either. Like, so,
and like that
I just think it was
that really did cause like a huge chain reaction because when you watch it, you see just everybody spread. And you see the momentum, like Jones loses it. He gets like sucked in the middle somehow. And then Kurt Busch comes up the track. And I forget who was in front of Bubba. But like they back up. Bubba smashes into him. And then Kurt Busch came back and those two got into each other. And then Bubba hit the wall real fucking hard. Like real head-on hit. You know, and then like, yeah, it was like just pandemonium at the end where I was trying to figure out where Jones even finished because he got sucked down that hole so quick, you know?
Yeah.
It really, it was kind of interesting. It reminded me of, I think it was last year at Talladega when Matt DiBenedetto cleared himself or something. Do you remember that? He was about to win the race and he chose the wrong lane.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
and then Brad
yes,
Keselowski just drove right by him.
Yes.
It's kind of what happened there, you know? And even Ross said it in his post-race interview, you know, he's like, I've seen Justin Haley in the Xfinity series do this same stuff and then like, or like stay behind someone.
He stayed low. He stayed in the low line.
Yeah, and then make that move, and that's what Ross Chastain did. He did what Haley does in the Xfinity series. He lets these guys wreck themselves, and then you just go right by him, you know?
Yep.
So it's like
Eric.
it's like Matt said in our gambling segment on Saturday. If you missed the gambling video, Talladega is about survival. You know, it just being there at the end. So
I was just shocked that nobody in the media or drivers made a big deal out of that move by him, though. Nobody said anything about it. And I watched the replays. Every replay I watched. I watched a video where they were interviewing Eric Jones watching it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, Larson just doored him. Like, what the? Say something. He's like, oh, well, Larson gets up there. It's like, dude, come on. Like, how is nobody calling that as a shitty fucking move?
Yeah.
Because it was a bad move.
I feel like
don't call Larson out, call the spotter out at least.
I feel like Jones is just too nice of a guy to do that, you know?
That's what it's like. He falls into the line like Reddick. Like you want to see a little bit more. Like I'm pissed off when he gets out of that car after Bristol, but like that's just. I guess that's who they are, you know.
Eric, some silver lining for you, man. Is one, like you said in your checkers, is EJ had a fantastic point today. Fantastic point today. He didn't win. You always want the win, but you look at the playoff standings, which is eventually going to be the most important standings. He's only 12 points out of the playoffs, man. That's where you want to be right now if you're that organization. Anything short of actually having a win, they're right there. They're contending. I told you, I gave you the stats from last week off air. Eric Jones is bringing a good car, and he himself is doing the things necessary to keep himself in the thick of things. And then in the normal point standings, he's 17th. He's not that far out. He's 7 points behind Austin Cindric, who has a win. So keep your head up. Eric Jones has Bristol. I mean, he's really good at Bristol. So later on in the year, so he's still going to have his opportunities to get this thing together.
Yeah, it's all about those points, you know. My guy, terrible points. They dropped from 10th to 16th, so he's right on the cut line. In fact, I think he's below the cut line by 1 point, you know. And when it comes down to it, that's all that matters in the grand scheme is getting into the playoffs, getting that playoff money, you know. And I think Jones has a good shot as long as they keep running consistent. I feel like what you said too, Eric. You know, Jones is an underrated super speedway racer. I think he's an underrated racer in general.
Oh God, yeah.
And you know, we've seen flashes here and there of petty GMS. I think they're just still trying to figure it out, you know. And who knows, maybe next season they'll be like Trackhouse, lighting it up, you know.
I'm hoping. I got my fingers crossed, and I do believe that team is hungry. They're doing the right things as far as, you know, getting those cars and that, just the whole team, getting them excited and ready to win races. And I don't think they've seen that in that garage in quite a few years. And I think that winning attitude is contagious. And I think they all have it over there at Petty GMS.
Yeah, them teaming up with GMS was huge. Like I said before the season started, when that news broke, I was so pumped for you because that's a big deal. And you know, I think Petty himself is kind of staying out of it. He's got GMS to handle the actual business side of things, and I think it's proven dividends right now. Your teammate Ty Dillon, if he didn't get taken out, he was having a hell of a race too.
Oh
so,
yeah,
I mean, the power and the speed is there.
And they had, well, Ty Dillon had a great day last week too. So like, you know, it's just finding the right combination of track in the day, you know. My checkers and wreckers for the week, I gotta give my checkers to Dale Earnhardt Jr., man, in that booth. Just fantastic, like really great, to the point where, like, as I was watching, I was thinking like okay, this is what Fox is missing right now, you know, because right now they have that constant rotation, which we've seen some good guys. Tony Stewart was really good. Matt Kenseth I thought was great. I was a little bit disappointed in what's his name? God damn it, from Hendrick.
Jeff?
Chad Knaus. I was a little disappointed in Chad Knaus. I thought maybe he could, especially during Richmond when it was a fuel strategy race, he could have pulled the line of the crew chief role a little bit better. But Dale Jr., man, it felt like the booth was complete because you had Mike Joy, who is just a legend, you know, and then you had Dale Jr., who I feel like has really come into his own. Like, all those guys, they were great fill-ins, but they weren't a true broadcaster. And I think right now Dale Jr. is at the point in his career where he is a broadcaster, you know. He's figured out the producers talking in his ear and everything, where he's just real smooth. And Clint Boyer, that's always been my kind of downfall for Clint, is where he's not smooth yet. You know, he's getting there, but he'll start making a point, and then you can tell someone's talking in his ear, and he starts trailing off, he gets a little confused, and then the listener at home kind of gets confused because I'm like, Clint, what the fuck are you talking about, you know? Well, I was following you there, and then you lost me, and you could hear the confidence in his voice. He trails off. And I'm like, man, okay.
On that.
You know? And I feel like Dale Jr. kind of pulled those two guys together and made them like a team, you know? And I feel like that's what Fox is missing. And it doesn't have to be Dale Jr. in the booth. It just needs to be that professional in the booth to pull them together. And I think Dale did a great job. I wish we could get him every week of the entire season, have him pull double duty Fox and NBC. I know that's a lot to ask for somebody, though. It's a long season, and he does have other things going on, you know. But man, I really enjoyed his commentary.
The one thing that I think, you know, and I'm not talking about the production side of things, because the Fox production side of things, the behind the camera work stuff is in my opinion awful.
Yeah.
And NBC's is phenomenal.
Yep.
But the actual on-screen talent, the guys in the booth, the reason why Fox is kind of lacking compared to NBC is those guys over at NBC, Dale Jr., Letarte, Burton, and
Rick Allen.
Rick Allen, they're buddies. Like they're in group chats together. They hang out in the off season. If they're within driving distance of a track from Charlotte, they'll all get into a car and drive to the track together.
Yeah.
Like, I don't see Mike Joy and Clint Boyer doing that. Like, and that's listen, hey, that's to no fault of their own, but there's a certain real actual friendship chemistry that the NBC guys have, and it shows on air.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of silly, but you could take this podcast, for instance, like there's no doubt that the three of us go back, and I'm sure the listener at home knows, like, oh, these guys have been buddies for a long, long time. You take some random guy that might know a lot about NASCAR, you throw him on this podcast in place of one of us, and it's just not going to feel right. And I feel like that's where Fox is lacking that true chemistry, that NBC does have. And that's a natural thing that you're not going to get because Steve Letarte was Dale Jr.'s crew chief for how many years? Jeff Burton worked at RCR. I'm sure he had a lot to do in those DEI days with Dale Jr. back in the day. It's that it factor that you can't manufacture, right. What I mean? But yeah,
I'll tell you what,
I just thought it was great.
As a little side note, I might have to wreck myself after that because watching it in the garage, you know how that goes. I mean, crank it up. I had that some bitch cranked up.
Oh yeah.
But people talking and you're in there.
You're
like,
not really
I didn't
hearing
get a lot of the Dale Jr. and that's all I saw on social media today was how good he was. And like, I'm kind of disappointed I didn't get to, hear his commentary.
No, dude. I'm actually jealous of you because all it did was make me really, really want the NBC broadcast. Like, it made me really want the NBC broadcast. Yeah. So I'm like, I kind of wish he didn't do that because you kind of forget about how good it is. And then now it's just like, well, Jesus, I still think we have like a solid 2 months until NBC comes on board. So it's like, God damn it. That was just a little tease that we had there. So I'm jealous of you, man. You did it the right way.
That's that's a good point there. I definitely see where you're coming from. So, hey, maybe it did work out for me.
We have 7 races left in the Fox booth, and then we move on to Nashville. So 8 races from now, we get NBC back. Also, I got to give an honorable mention to Larry Mack on the pit box after 20 years and getting a second place finish with Jeffrey Earnhardt. We already talked about him, but I mean, he gets my honorary checkers. My wreckers goes to Brad Keselowski. 2 speeding penalties is not what you need when a super speedway is your greatest opportunity at winning your way into the playoffs, especially when the super speedway is Talladega, a place he's won how many times in the past. I put him in the lineup. I had high hopes. I woke up from one of my naps and he was a lap down. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? He gets the lap back and then he speeds during a green flag stop, and like it was blatant too, where Dale Jr. on the broadcast even like brought it up. He goes, "Oh, this is speeding," and then like he got cut off or whatever. But like he passed someone on the outside entering on pit lane, and I'm like, "There's no way." They
were coming back from like commercial, and it was like the first thing. Like you could tell Dale didn't get the cue that they were back from commercial.
Yeah,
like, he's speeding.
Yeah. So yeah, I gotta wreck Brad Keselowski on that whole ordeal. I thought yesterday might have been a day for Brad, and I bet on both those guys. I had Chris Buescher in my lineup. I had Brad Keselowski in my lineup. They did great at Daytona. I thought RFK was going to have something for us at Talladega. Chris Buescher got taken out to no fault of his own. He got me 1 point, pushed him into the garage. And, that's just fantasy racing when it comes to super speedways. But that's my checkers and wreckers for the weekend. Do you guys have anything else to add to the race? Any race notes? Anything that stood out to you guys?
I was a little interested to see how these cars handled the heat in Talladega. This was kind of the first race where the ambient temperatures were going to be up with this new next-gen car, and how, if you don't know, in the off-season, one of the big design flaws of the car that they really had to work on and fix and experiment with was dissipating the heat in the cockpit of the cars. The driver said it was just way, way too hot in those cars. They need to do something. And, they worked on a couple things, and, this was the true test of if those were going to work or not, being, it was chilly the last couple weekends, going into Bristol and Martinsville, and, here, this was true test. And for the most part, I didn't hear any issues as far as heat in these race cars. So hats off to NASCAR for really fixing that issue and handling it.
Yeah, if you don't remember what we're talking about, in the off season when they were still testing the next gen car, one of the new designs of the car is on the old car, the exhaust used to exit out of the passenger side of the car. This one has a split exhaust where it exits on both sides of the car, and they had a plate underneath it to dissipate heat, but the cockpit was still getting too warm from that exhaust. So that's, if you look at the windshield of the car, you'll see a big square box to the left of the name. That's actually an inlet that lets fresh air into the cockpit, and that's what those slits on the rear glasses. That's to let that air out. And yeah, Eric, you're right. I didn't hear any drivers complaining about heat or overheating. And in fact, I remember during testing that some guys are actually getting kind of cold because of that air coming in. So I think we're good. One thing that did surprise me during the heat, though, was a picture you guys sent on Twitter. It was of all the Cup Garage teams holding umbrellas over the cars before they entered the laser scanner for pre-race inspection, something I've never seen happen. Of course, we have these composite bodies, but something that surprised me, I mean, the Xfinity series runs composite bodies, and I never heard of them doing this for the Xfinity series. What'd you guys think about that?
Confused. I said one thing. Yeah, I said one thing when you sent that over. I'm like, if the sun is going to warp or change a part on this car,
yeah,
I am not going to believe any post-race inspection bullshit ever again. Like,
no,
you mean to tell me that, like, before the race even starts, the sun is affecting whether you pass or not, but after a race and your car raced all day and you go through inspection that, you know, I'm going to believe everything you say went wrong with that. If you need an umbrella, like, I don't know, that just seemed kind of sketchy and weird. I don't know, like, were the crew chiefs just like playing it safe, or was there, like, did they all do something that they knew? There had to have been one team that started and rest followed, or did they all know going into it? Or is it super speedway related only? Are they going to do that at other hot racetracks come this summer?
Yeah,
it might be something to keep an eye on and see what tracks they do that at versus, you know, ones they don't. So
and what the temperature is of the time.
Bullshit.
I was totally confused by it. I'm admittedly not a mechanic. I'm not a gearhead, you know, so I don't know what that could have prevented or helped out. So if anyone listening actually knows and can give us a really good reason as to why they were doing that, please comment.
Yeah,
please let us know, because I saw those pictures and I was like, what the hell is going on here? Because Whitey, you said it, you know, Xfinity has the composite bodies. I've never seen them doing it, or maybe I've just never noticed it, but I don't think so. Like, I've never seen them do it. So I don't know. That was confusing to me.
I don't know if we have an engineer listening, or if you read an article about it. Let us know in the comments of the YouTube video, and if you're just listening through the podcast through one of the providers, hit us up on Twitter or our Facebook page at Bump the Letter and Run Pod. Let us know. I mean, I know things expand and contract with heat and cold, and I know this car is mostly bolted together, so maybe the heat's having some things where things are expanding. Maybe it wasn't the body. Maybe it was some other panels. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe the spoiler or something. I don't know. It was just
very weird to see.
It was a really weird thing to see. If you don't know what we're talking about, look up on Twitter, just the pre-race inspection. It's literally every crew member holding umbrellas above the cars, like trying to shade them. It was just real strange.
I didn't see it, but I'm sure NASCAR Chasm had a blast.
I'm sure NASCAR Chasm did something with that. I want to know, why don't they head on down to Harbor Freight and pick up one of those carport tents? You get a 20 by 10, you put that in the hauler, you throw that out on the tarmac there. I'm sure they'll figure it out.
Whitey's secret love for Harbor Freight shows again.
Dude, I love Harbor Freight so much. I check the emails every day for the deals just to see what's going on. Let's see. Going through my race notes, Hendrick was hooked up all day long, working together, led a whole bunch of laps. Logano, a guy I had high hopes for, he got squeezed out of the draft, and he wrecked with Briscoe, Buescher, and Hemrick. But I think Hemrick actually lost power and just ended up in that wreck. Another ECR engine that expired. I think he was one of 3. Seabell got turned by his teammate leaving pit road. Didn't think I would see that. Also, did you notice Mike Joy called him Eric Jones in that one too?
Yep.
Mike Joy loves calling Eric Jones in that 20 car, which he should still be there, but regardless. Denny ran out of gas with 3 to go. A little shocked by that one. You remember in our picks, though, I said Bubba was going to beat the boss, and he did. And a big wreck at the checker flag. Bubba got into Kurt after Kyle Larson blocked the run. We talked all about that. Just a big old mess at the end. But yeah, that's all I have for race notes. Anything else stand out to you guys?
I think we covered it all.
All right.
Typical Talladega. You had, that was a good Talladega race. Not a lot of the big ones, which I think that was the only really difference. And like we stated, we talked about it with the arrow. So I'm good with that.
Joey Logano was involved in a wreck that wasn't his fault. How about
that's
that?
true.
Wow.
That's true.
Okay.
He didn't make a bad block and wreck the whole entire field. So congratulations to Joey Logano. Sorry your day ended early due to somebody else instead of yourself. Moving on, everybody loves to talk about the winner, Ross Chastain. Here on the Bumper Run podcast, we like to talk about the guy that came in last place, and that was one Tyler Reddick. He did not have the day he was looking for after a second place finish last week when he got the win taken away from him. He had an engine failure 30 laps into the race. The timing chain snapped, which from what I could gather, usually when a timing belt or a timing chain snaps, it's not the cause of the engine failure, but a result of an engine failure. Something inside that engine seized up and well, it stopped spinning. And that was one of 3 ECR engines to expire early yesterday. Of course, Daniel Hemrick was one of them in the colleague car. And then I forget one of the back marker guys. It wasn't who was it? I forget who. Someone had an engine failure.
Give me a second.
It was one of those back marker guys.
Daniel Hemrick?
No, the other one. If you look at the sheet, it's gonna say it wasn't. It was a mechanical failure. But Mike Joy brought it.
Was Biffle running a?
Yeah, I think it was Biffle, Greg Biffle. Although if you look at the stat sheet, it said it was a fuel pump. Either way, it was an ECR engine that went bad. So I don't know what's going on over there. Those guys made me real nervous throughout the race for Eric and basically anyone in a RCR Alliance team. Trackhouse, the winner, they had an ECR engine in them. I thought we would be talking about Trackhouse losing because of that. Last year they were getting those bunk Hendrick engines over at Ganassi, and now RCR is hooking them up with bunk engines. Maybe that one was supposed to go out the door and not into Reddick's car, and someone misread the tag and threw it in the 8 car by accident. I don't know.
Put it on.
Putting the tinfoil hat on. Just not the day. I want it. He want it, but it's one of those things through no fault of his own. I was looking on the bright side. Hey, there's a car we didn't wreck. So now we have an extra car for down the line.
Yeah. That's a great point.
Especially as these supply chain issues keep going. But yeah, that's all I got for the last place. Normally we move on to the week ahead, but let's look to the past, because on today's date, NASCAR history is on today's date. April 25th, 2004. It was 18 years ago, and we were at Talladega for the Aaron's 499, and it was a race that ended in controversy. At the time, Dale Earnhardt Incorporated, DEI, was absolutely dominant at super speedways, winning the last 5 trips to Dega. 4 wins for Junior, 1 win for Michael Waltrip. Those guys were dominant on super speedways in the early 2000s. They made moves that mirrored each other. They always got themselves to the front. And that day was no different They would be dominating once again as the 8 Budweiser car of Dale Jr. took the lead early on lap 11. But here's the thing. Hendrick and DEI were fast cars those days. Hendrick had something for him. Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson were working together, and they were lightning fast, but they were battling out with DEI all day long. Had a whole bunch of cautions that kind of shook up the field. Tony Stewart turned somebody, causing a big one, all sorts of stuff going on. But it would come to a late race caution where Dale Jr.'s greatest weakness was exposed that day. He was not starting well on restarts on the front row, and Kevin Harvick would jump to the lead as Dale Jr. faded. We had 9 to go. Eventually, Jimmy Johnson would hook up with Jeff Gordon and push Gordon to the lead, while Jr. and Mikey were in the back trying to gain some positions. Jr. left Mikey to dry. We're in the closing laps, and he's got to run. He's coming up on Jr. We got 5 to go, and the battle is for the lead. And what does happen? Brian Vickers spins with 5 to go, all while Jr. was passing Jeff Gordon. The crowd was going absolutely insane because they think DEI and Dale Jr. is going to win another one at Dega. But then as the caution laps start going, we got 3 to go. And Jeff Gordon takes the lead for some reason. NASCAR was scoring Gordon in the lead. At the time the caution came out, Dale Jr. was just barely there, and Gordon had the nose in on him. And, well, as the NASCAR crowd figured it out that day that Dale Jr. wasn't going to win the race, well, they were getting pissed, and they start launching beer cans at Jeff Gordon in a legendary finish. He was in the Pepsi car that day, but that car was covered in Budweiser beer, just dozens and dozens of cans of beer being thrown at Jeff Gordon as he takes that checker flag. And, well,
shame on those fans for not having that beer drank before the end of the race.
Yeah, those full beers, total waste of a beer. I get it, you're angry, but you know, there's thirsty people around the world that would love those beers, and they just went to waste. But I'll never forget just the vision, like that picture of Gordon taking the flag and just a bombardment of beers at the checker line. But it would lead to an adoption of a new rule. By the end of that season, NASCAR would create the NASCAR overtime rule, where we would always get a green-white checker finish. Now, earlier on the podcast, Eric was talking how, you know, we've had a lot of those recently, and it was nice to see a race go the distance. But I tell you what, when I watch those old races, I hate it when they end under caution. It's just so anticlimactic. So I'm glad that the fans revolted that day in Talladega and threw all those beers, forcing NASCAR's hand to do something so we didn't get disappointing finishes under a yellow flag condition.
Famously, Dale Sr.'s only Daytona 500 victory
came under a yellow flag.
It's like kind of anticlimactic, you know?
It really was, but you want to what? After 20 years of trying, I think you take that win however you could get it.
Right.
So yeah, but no, for real, it kind of was an anticlimactic end.
Nobody talks about that, how anticlimactic that race was.
Nope, they just talk about the celebration after and how long. But yeah, no, they came to the yellow. They were cruising at 55 miles per hour to the finish. You know,
can you imagine if Twitter was around back then? Oh my God!
Oh, they would melt down. the Gordon fans would be furious on Twitter that day. But yeah, that was the NASCAR history. I thought it was fitting since today is the 18th anniversary of it. We had Dale Jr. in the booth. We had the 3-car coming second 2 days in a row. Just a whole lot of Dale Earnhardt stuff lining up, and DEI and all that. And actually, we saw the last remnants of Dale Earnhardt Incorporated win at Talladega yesterday. If you ever pay attention, look at that one font. That font is the same font as the DEI #1. And if you follow the chain of how NASCAR teams formed over the years, Chip Ganassi merged with Dale Earnhardt Incorporated. It was Ganassi DEI. Eventually they dropped that. They just went with Ganassi, but they still had that number one car. And then they sell it to Trackhouse, who the name is escaping me.
Ty Norris.
Ty Norris used to run DEI. Ty Norris was Dale Earnhardt's crew chief back in the day. He eventually moved on to run DEI for Dale. He's running Trackhouse Racing over there. He's the competition director. So it kind of was like Dale Earnhardt Incorporated in a roundabout way won at Talladega yesterday.
That's awesome.
Am I pulling at strings there? I don't know.
No, man, it's cool. It's spooky in a way.
It really is. It's fun to do a little deep dive on NASCAR teams and the progression and mergers and all that stuff. It really is interesting. But yeah, that was the NASCAR history for the day. But now I think it's time that we look ahead to the future. We're heading to Dover. In fact, we are actually heading to Dover, Delaware. We're going to be down there next Sunday. Of course, we'll do the podcast Monday night. Maybe if we're exhausted, we'll push it to Tuesday, but we all have Monday off, so I think we'll survive. The Xfinity Series is going to be on track Saturday, 1:30 on FS1 for the A Game 200. Practice and qualifying for Cup will be Saturday at 10:30, and then Cup Series Sunday, 3 p.m. on FS1 for the Duramax Dryden 400, presented by Reladine. Or Reladine, I don't even know. Too many.
I couldn't help you there, brother. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce it either.
There's too many vowels. It doesn't make sense. Reladyne, Reladine. But yeah, heading to Dover. Matt, you got the stats we need to make our picks.
Well, actually, keep filibustering because last time I checked, DraftKings did not have it posted. So
oh man, they're slacking.
One more time here.
Hopefully they're updated by 8:58 here, because it is getting late. To go over our picks from last week, though, Matt picked Denny Hamlin. He got you 19 points. Eric, you picked Ryan Blaney, he got you 26 points, and I picked Eric Almirola. He got me 28 points, so not the biggest points day for us. And in the standings right now, Eric is leading with 305. Matt is in second with 295, so only 10 points back, and I have rallied back to 287 points. So I'm about one good race, and you guys having two DNFs from catching up here, because I have two DNFs on my fantasy so far. But Matt, did they give us those lines yet?
We're good. So we don't have the head-to-heads, but we do have the odds. Like I said, this is via DraftKings. It's Monday night, April 25th at 9 p.m. So obviously these are going to change after qualifying and in practice. But like I always do, I'll give you the top 10 in odds favorites. Rounding out the top 10 is Kyle Busch at a plus 1,400. Really good odds there. Then you move down. You've got four guys. Five guys with the same odds. Kevin Harvick, Martin Truex Jr., Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano, and Denny Hamlin, all plus 1,200 right now. I would jump on a little spoiler alert. My pick, because I did finish last, my pick is within that group.
Okay.
I would jump on those really good odds before qualifying and practice start. Then you move up here to the top four. You've got Alex Bowman plus 1,000. You've got it's all Hendrick.
That's what I assumed.
Slick Willie 2 Clocks plus 900, along with Chase Elliott at plus 900. And then your overwhelming favorite is Kyle Larson at plus 450.
Do we remember who won the races here last year?
At Dover?
Yeah.
Didn't Alex Bowman?
I think he might have, right? Let's look it up. All right, Matt. Well, since you're going first, how about you pick?
Yeah, so I gave a little teaser to who my guy is going to be. The last time I nailed a win with my picks, I picked a hometown guy in Denny Hamlin when he won at Richmond. So I'm doing a hometown guy again this week, Martin Truex Jr. Get off that fishing boat, buddy. Get into a stock car and go win your first race of the season. I'm taking the 19 of Martin Truex Jr. He turns his season around and he gets a win.
All right, and that's the second time you've picked Martin Truex Jr. this season. Last year we did free-for-all picks. Now we are limiting picks to you have 5 chances for each driver to pick them. So that's your second Martin Truex Jr. pick. How about you, Eric? Who are you picking for the Duramax Dryden 400 at Dover?
Oh, I think Hendricks is just running really well right now, and there's someone over there that isn't in that win column yet, and there's part of me that believes that he's going to get there, and hasn't been talked about a lot, but I think he finally gets it done this week at Dover, and that number 9 goes to victory lane.
You know what, Eric? I was thinking about picking Chase too.
You guys will have to carry me back to the parking lot if that happens.
Here's the thing. Matt brought up a great point. Last week, my driver was in the lead and got taken out for the win in the last lap. This week, Eric's driver was in the lead and got taken out for the win in the last lap. We have one driver left, and that's Chase. I don't even want to throw it out there. But no, I agree with the odds, and I'm thinking Hendrick is going to run really well. I looked it up. Alex Bowman did win here last year. I don't know if Bowman's going to do it this weekend. I wanted to pick Chase. I really did.
I wanted to pick Bowman, but I'm like, you know what? I'm like, Chase is due for one.
Yeah, I feel like Chase is due for one. But I'm gonna go with Kyle Larson for the win. You want to what? Something is telling me to pick Larson, and that's the second time I've picked him this season. Oh, and
I'd be very happy to see any one of our picks win in person.
Yeah, I think I really wanted to pick Willie 2 Clocks though, but he's already got
2 Clocks, man.
He's got 2 wins. You want to know what? Fuck Kyle Larson. I'm going with Slick Willie 2 Clocks for the win in Delaware, getting the 3rd win of the season. Give me Slick,
absolutely winning this race.
Slick Willie 2 Clocks. Mark it down. Mark it down. Originally, I was not going to pick him because I didn't want to pick someone twice. But we all picked our guys for the second time this season. I think we're just getting to the point where we're going to have to start picking guys over again. But yeah, so I'm going with Slick Willie 2 Clocks. Matt's going with Martin Truex Jr., the local guy. And Eric is going with Chase Elliott, the only driver at Hendrick who hasn't won yet. We're 10 races into the season. We have 8 different winners locked into the playoffs. Austin Cindric, Kyle Larson, Alex Bowman, Chase Briscoe, William Byron with 2, Ross Chastain with 2, Denny Hamlin and Kyle Busch all have themselves locked into playoffs so far. We will find out, will it be Chase Elliott? Will it be Martin Truex Jr. getting his first win of the season, or will it be Slick Willie 2 Clocks with his 3rd win of the season? We will find out this Sunday, 3 p.m. on FS1 for the Duramax Dryden 400. We will be there live. If you want to meet up, if you're heading down, hit us up on Twitter at BumpTheLetterAndRunPod. Hit us up on Facebook. I'm sure one of us will be wearing a Bump and Run t-shirt, so we won't be hard to find. And if you find us, we'll give you a beer. We'll give you a beer on the BNR pod. Maybe, if you're old enough to drink. I don't know. Anyways, we'll break it all down for you Monday or Tuesday. We'll let you know on Facebook for sure. For Matt, the Statman Reilly, for Eric, Daytona Ron, I'm Michael D. White saying have a good night.
The Bump and Run.
There it is.